the mad rush of joiners has already happened. So we can get started. Welcome everyone. Angie Thompson, the facilitator for the Community Task Force. And welcome everyone to this is Task Force meeting number 22. We have a couple reminders before we get started, just to make sure that our meeting is accessible for everyone who's participating. And so there's, maybe you can share, Lori's got it, okay. So to make sure the meetings are accessible, we have a couple things. One is that we try not to use the chat, the written chat feature. And if you do put something in the chat, I'm gonna read it out loud or ask you to read it out loud. And ask people to raise their hand if you want to ask a question or make a statement. And then every time that you're speaking, it would be great if you identified yourself, so people don't have to just remember your voice. Just identify yourself every time you speak or ask a question. And then if you're referencing something that's on the screen, maybe you could clearly describe it, and that would be helpful to say, the map has a red line that goes from 0 to 100 or something like that, just so that everybody can keep up with what's happening. I think that's probably the big things that we want to remind you of in terms of keeping the meeting accessible. There are folks who are listening to this meeting through the live streaming service on YouTube. And for folks who are listening on YouTube, if you happen to be doing that, if you we can't hear comments from you. You can't actually participate in the meeting that way, but you can always submit comments via West Seattle Bridge at seattle.gov, that email address. So if you have comments that come up for you, feel free to shoot an email that way so that we can make sure we're hearing from you. That's it for me. I would love to turn it over now to Mayor Greg Nichols to kick us off into the real meeting part.
All right, thank you, Angie. Welcome, everyone. Very happy that you're with us, and hope that you're enjoying a very nice summer day and not too warm in the process. My co-chair, Paulina, had a family emergency come up today and is not going to join us, and she's very sorry about that, but she is taking care of family, and that comes first. We're going to do a few minutes to give everyone a chance to do some community reflection. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage in doing that, in that I cannot see anybody but who's speaking or the agenda that's up on the screen. The agenda is very simple. We should be able to finish up a bit early, hopefully a lot early. But we're going to talk about South Park Drainage and Roadway Partnership. That's important to a number of the members of the task force, and of course to the South Park community. We're going to get a quick update on high and low bridge rehabilitation. We're going to talk about the projects that are going on in Reconnect West Seattle. I'm sure many of you have noticed the construction at Highland Parkway and West Marginal. We'll hear a little bit about that, and it's a bit of a hassle now, but I think people will be very pleased when it wraps up. So with that, if anyone has thoughts that they want to share with the group, please raise your hand. Angie's going to help me since I can't see you. Call on folks. So,
anyone have any things that you've been hearing that you want to share as you've been out and about in the community?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I have a construction project going on here, so I apologize for the noise. So I asked this question last time, and I believe it was asked again on the 21st, and I see that it's also addressed in a few slides or a slide later on in this deck. So my question is actually, it's not a question, it's an observation. With Ken Wilson emerging as a Seattle City Council candidate, him being a civil engineer, And in particular, there was a Seattle Times story, I think earlier this week, maybe last week, on him, where there was lots of mention of the West Seattle Bridge. And so as a result of that, there was lots of healthy discussion in our West Seattle Bridge Facebook page, West Seattle Bridge Now Facebook page. And so I just bring it up because I know, the question's already been asked, obviously, but I think, especially given that Ken is now on the ballot, that this question is going to continue to be asked. And the question is whether or not the bridge can open in some sort of a capacity, one lane in, one lane out. And so that kind of leads into what do we want to learn more about in future meetings? And I brought this up last time as well. I think it would be really helpful just to sort of, get some answers that might help alleviate, or I guess, ensure that this question doesn't continue to be asked. It would be great if we could get WSP and or Kramer on one of these calls. And I know we had brought it up, or I brought it up last time. And I think, Heather, you said, sure, that could happen. So I think that would be super helpful for this group, for the West Seattle community, just to hear directly from the source versus, from SDOT.
From the source. Liz, you lost me there. What is the
source
being
the source being the folks that are saying it's not going to be possible to open the West Seattle Bridge up early, one way in, one way out. It's a question that's been asked by the community. You're not familiar with what I'm talking about?
No, I really am not.
Oh, it's addressed actually in this deck on, I don't know, slide 10 or so. It's a question.
Okay.
Yeah, Liz, thanks for bringing this up again. Yep. And as you said, this is Sam Zimbabwe, SDOT director. We are going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on in the presentation.
Okay.
And so I think we recognize this continues to be a question that comes from the community. We're going to talk about it. And then if there are still questions after we talk about it, I think it'd be a good idea maybe for the CTF to help us think about how we continue to communicate this. And the source is SDOT. The source is the City Department of Transportation that is the owner of the bridge and responsible for what happens on it.
Sure, of course. At the end of the day, yes. I just think it would be helpful. I mean, for not just for that question, but any other questions that we may have. I'm sure there's some useful details and information that we could gain from having WSP and or Kramer as a guest on this call.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Deb, how about you? Yes, Deb.
Unmute. There we are.
There you go.
Figure out which button works where. Hi, this is Deb Barker, and I have two questions slash comments. Actually, they're both questions, and these are resulting from my talking with community members and also eyeballs on the West Seattle blog. Really, and reading people's comments. But I noticed that there is concerned about the water taxi schedule past October. And I don't know if we have anybody here, maybe Chris can answer this from King County, but, and Heather, that'd be awesome. But there's folks they're going to SDOT and hoping for answers about the water taxi, which is really King County. The issue for that is, will the schedule, the very frequent schedule, be maintained past October, at least until the bridge is reopened? So that was one question that I had. Should I get answers on that or go ahead with my second question, Angie?
Let's answer that one real quick, and then we'll go to the next one. I don't know if there's someone who's available to answer that.
Heather was right.
Angie, let me take a crack at it. And if Chris Arkels is here and wants to speak, he's certainly welcome. We might need to promote him to something.
He's there. Hey, Chris.
I'm promoted.
Oh, I love it. Metro is not funded to run the West Seattle water taxi at its current levels past the October service change. We have, and there are, even if we found more money for them, there are additional issues that contribute. So Chris, do you want to say more?
Yeah, well, at this point, there's no budgeted money for the full summer schedule after October until the next full schedule, which starts again, I think, next March. To do so, you would have to get the King County Council to approve additional funds. We do have some crew staff issues as well, because our staff is currently built for a part-time and enlarged summer schedule. That said, there's nothing more we'd love to do, but it is a tough uphill road to get the King County Council to approve additional dollars for the water taxi, as former King County Council member Gregory Nichols can certainly attest to, as can Heather. It's a little bit of all the services are in one district, so it's a little hard to get the council to approve that money.
And there's nothing, this is Deb again, there's nothing in the D8 budget to help with this on its own, or nothing in the Reconnect West Seattle budget to assist with this in any way, shape, or form. Hey, Shannon.
Not at this point.
I will dangerously, I can't speak for District 8, and I don't believe Councilmember McDermott is on the line, but generally speaking, those budgets are not large enough to have an impact on these kinds of projects. They're much, much smaller appropriations.
What kind of number are we talking about to extend the summer schedule? Is there a monthly number, or?
I don't want to put a number out in public that I would be making up. I'm certainly would be able to track that down, but it is expensive to operate a full schedule.
Right, but we also have a bridge that's closed, and we do have a declared emergency. So just want to throw that out, and maybe when I see Councilmember McDermott, King County Councilmember McDermott, I'll check in with him. I was hoping he'd be here today.
I can certainly get you the cost for what it would be to keep that service out. I'll get that right away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That'd be great. Angie, should I ask my next question?
How about if we've got a couple people in line, can we?
Okay, fair enough.
Go to Peter and then Dan, and then we'll come back to you, Deb.
I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Peter.
Thank you, Angie. And hello, everybody. Peter Goldman, Alki Beach, 30 years. What I've been hearing in this session, as far as feedback, I'd like to provide some feedback on biking. I think
Peter, you got a lot of feedback. We can barely understand you.
Oh, boy. I am really sorry. Is that working now? Okay, well, I'm gonna go back in line. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to you, Dan, while Peter's working on his technical.
All right. The main thing I'm hearing right now, and this is a very specific industry issue, but two of the largest food distributors in Western Washington have had massive driver shortages and have cut West Seattle out of most of their routing. So getting restaurant supplies into West Seattle is almost impossible. Paired today with a increased outbreak in COVID in one of their facilities. So we've had all food deliveries canceled through at least till next Monday. So with lower bridge access, I want to thank SDOT for allowing the lower bridge access for restaurants to be able to get across to the supply houses. All those supply houses are currently out of everything because they did not expect the two largest distributors to be out. So the flexibility with the lower bridge, I just want to thank SDOT for allowing the restaurants to stay open. Many of us were within a day or two of closing and still are on the teetering of possibly having to close by not having product. So the lifeline across the bridge has been fantastic. So thank you. And to anyone who's going out to a restaurant and your favorite meal is not available, trust us, it's not on us. It's a 3 to 4 hour will call wait to drive to Kent to get product right now, and it's the only place to really get it in the city. So thanks SDOT for allowing the restaurants to stay open by getting us the access to be able to get across. It's incredibly brutal right now.
Thanks, Ken. Deb, let's go back to you while Peter's still working.
Real
I'm
quick.
ready to go when you're ready. I'm sorry about that. I had to dial in on a different device.
Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that I've been generally getting and experiencing very positive impacts on biking. I used to bike to Pioneer Square for almost 20 years, and I don't bike there every day, but I do bike downtown very frequently, and things in consideration of all the work down at the waterfront. It's very smooth and very safe. We appreciate the safer shoulders on Alaska Way and all the new green striping and all the kinds of things that just make it safer. There still are some trouble spots here and there, but I think that all said, things have gone well, and the loss of the bridge was a good opportunity to increase biking, which is at 6 to 7% up to higher levels, and especially with e-bikes, that's more attainable. So I just want to thank SDOT for that work, because it definitely shows on the ground, and I think that the impact of the loss of the bridge is on biking has been minimal and almost positive. So thank you.
Deb, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Deb Barker again, and I just want to say I've continued to have conversations with neighbors, and I'm just going to summarize the ones that come up most in the community, I guess I should say, is that why isn't this started yet? Why hasn't the work started yesterday? They want to see visual stuff going on. And I know that possibly 2 to 3 meetings ago, there was some roundabout discussion about what could we do to show that work is occurring. I know work has not started, but my question for SDOT today is, once it starts, have you thought about or have you implemented how you're going to show that stuff is actually occurring? Is it one of those charts where, look, this is our progress, or are there going to be, check marks on the side of the bridge painted? What are you going to be doing that's incredibly visual so that everybody knows stuff is going on inside that bridge? Thank you.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. Well, one of the things that we're going to do is continue to brief the community task force each and every month on our progress, as well as the West Seattle blog. Councilmember Herbold had an idea a meeting or two ago to hang a banner on the bridge, and we are working through the issues surrounding that. You might think that hanging a banner from a bridge is a really simple thing, but it's not. There's this thing called wind shear. So we have to, it's actually a little mini engineering challenge. So we're going to do those things. I live here, Deb, as I've mentioned, and I know how frustrated people are, and I'm not 100% sure that there's any one thing or any constellation of things that is gonna sort of solve that feeling of anxiety. But we're going to continue to do the transparent communication that we've done for the entire project, and the banner, we're going to move forward from there. I do want to remind people to sign up for weekly emails on Friday. We're going to start sending those out again. You can go to seattle.gov/West Seattle Bridge and sign up. There's a subscribe button. You can get those emails each and every Friday. So if people wish to, they can be apprised every 7 days for the progress that we're making.
Thanks, Heather.
And I don't see any other hands up, but just to let folks know what's been happening in the chat. There's a couple comments here. Let's see, Shannon Braddock said that the executive office will continue to work with the council, Metro, and Councilmember McDermott, specifically around options related to the water taxi, and complimented Chris on outlining some of the challenges. And then I think Dan asked if we could put a scarecrow dressed in construction outfits on the bridge. So lots of great ideas of what
Yes.
the bridge. And then Deb responded to Shannon's note about noting that the water users would appreciate a response and follow up.
Yeah,
All right.
I do want to note, sorry, can I just say one more thing?
And then we have one more question. So yeah, Heather, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just also want to notice that the water taxi is not full today. The water taxi is not operating at capacity today. So one way that people can demonstrate to the county how important it is to fill it up. So just a thought.
There you go. I think it's time to move on to South Park.
John, can we get to your question maybe later, pick that back up at the end?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to comment on Georgetown, but yeah, I'll wait. Thanks.
Okay, we'll get there.
Thanks, John.
Okay, so we are ready to move to the next topic. So this is South Park Drainage and Roadway Partnership project update. We've got Therese Casper and Elaine Young coming to talk to us about a project that they're doing in the partnership with SPU. So Therese, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. And if you could move to the next slide. This is a map of the South Park neighborhood, and it shows the West Seattle Bridge detour route on West Marginal Way and the First Avenue South Bridge. And then our drainage and roadway improvements are to the east of West Marginal Way. They start on South Holden Street, which is the arterial route. And one thing for those of you that are visually looking at this map, there's the streets are mismarked. So the blue streets, which are South Holden and Fifth Avenue, which is the arterial route, those are actually going to be street and drainage improvements. And then we're also going to have drainage improvements on South Monroe Street as well as South Chicago Street. So we're rebuilding, I think it's about 7 blocks of gravel streets to be full pavement and also have drainage. And then we have one street, which is South Holden between 5th and 7th. That's the non-arterial part of South Holden. That is just going to be drainage improvements. And part of it has to do with the fact that this is an area, this is the industrial area of South Park. There's no drainage infrastructure in this area. So part of the reason why we have that one block of drainage improvements is because the drainage needs to go somewhere. So we're building drainage on all of these streets, and then that one block on South Holden between 5th and 7th, we have to actually have a drainage pipe to get it, to the drainage that eventually goes to the future pump station on South Riverside Drive. So this is a project that's been 4 years in the making between SDOT and Seattle Public Utilities. Again, no drainage infrastructure, a lot of gravel and unimproved streets. So in order for either of us to do the project, we were going to have to put in the improvements for the other agency. And so it really made sense for us to pool our resources and pool our money and do a joint project. And so that's what we're going to be doing starting this September. So it's coming up soon. And for those of you who might not be aware, we do have chronic flooding in South Park. There's not a lot of drainage infrastructure, and the drainage infrastructure that is there gets overwhelmed by the high tide in the Duwamish River. So this is going to be a huge improvement for the community. And if you go to the next slide, I have a few pictures that show that. Here's a picture of some of the chronic flooding that we see pretty much every year. This shows a house and cars parked, but you can see in the middle, there's some wood pallets that people use when they get out of their cars to access their homes, because if they didn't have that wood pallet there, they would be going through several inches of water, trying to get to their homes. So again, this partnership was really important to address, these chronic flooding issues that we have. And Seattle Public Utilities is also putting in the future pump station at South Riverside Drive between South Austin Street and South Holden Street, and that will also help with some of these drainage and flooding issues. And then if you go to the last slide, or actually, this is not the last slide, the second to last slide, sorry. These are the construction details. Again, another picture of a flooded street on South Holden and Fifth Avenue, just to show you the cars have about 1 inch or 2 of water up to their tires. And you can't see it because it's covered in water, but this is actually a street in South Park. So we're excited to be able to finally be able to address some of these ongoing issues in the South Park neighborhood. Now, in terms of the construction details, it's going to be a 12 to 16 month duration on the arterial route, which I mentioned again is South Holden to Fifth Avenue to South Kenyon. We're not doing construction on South Kenyon, but that's the arterial route through this area. We will be maintaining at least 1 lane of traffic through the duration of the construction, but we don't anticipate that all the blocks are going to be under construction, for this whole time period. We're really taking a block by block approach where we would be starting with the gravel roads being South Monroe and South Chicago, and then starting on the arterial route, again, that's South Holden and Fifth Avenue South portion, and then completing the drainage on South Chicago streets. And then we'll be following that with the restoration. So it's going to be a block by block approach. The non-arterial blocks will, have only local access only at points during construction. So the businesses will still be able to operate, but others will have to detour around those non-arterial blocks. But the arterial route will be accessible during the whole length of the construction and not impacted for the entire year, to 16 months. The construction will not impact the detour traffic on West Marginal Way. If you go to the next slide, we just wanted to let you know all the work that we've been doing over the last 3 to 4 years. There's been a lot of improvements made in the South Park community. There's been sewer mains on 14th Avenue South and South Concord. There's also been backflow preventers on homes. There's homes that have experienced sewer backups in the neighborhood. So that's an improvement that has been ongoing. And then we've had sewer replacements on 5th Avenue South, and then soil remediation, roadway improvements, and rain gardens near Dallas Avenue South and T117. And then there's also been traffic calming and stay healthy streets improvements. There's current investment happening with the South Park pump station with this project, the drainage and roadway improvements. There's also the South Park water quality facility, Cloverdale and 5th Avenue gateway improvements, sidewalk on Cloverdale and 5th, and a rain garden on Cloverdale and 5th. So there's a lot of work, including all the work that you're talking about as well, happening in the area. We've been communicating a lot with a listserv that we have now with over 700 people subscribing. We've been doing a lot of one-on-one meetings with the property owners and the tenants. There's only a couple of homes on this corridor that are impacted. Otherwise, it's the industrial businesses in the corridor. So we've been working really closely with them. We've been having neighborhood mailings, and also we've been going to the Duwamish River Festival, when that was happening. And during construction, we'll be doing traffic advisories, our listserv, and then one tool that we put in the contractor specifications in coordination with all of the SDOT traffic people is to do variable message signs. So we have 4 variable message signs that we can put in various places to help people know about the construction that's happening in this particular area, so that people are aware of what's happening. So that's a extra tool that we have in our toolbox for this project. And then if you want to be updated on what's going on, we do have the listserv, which you can go to at Seattle Gov Utilities Neighborhood Projects, and it's the South Park Drainage Project. And it is on SPU's website because they're the lead agency. So even though it's a joint SDOT SPU project, we have SPU in the lead and doing the main communications and construction management, but we're working in partnership and in concert with them. So with that, I'll see if there's any questions or comments.
Deb Barker has a question for you.
Hey, hi, this is Deb Barker. Kind of a dual question. Is there any way to postpone work on the arterials till July of 2022? And I probably know the answer to that, but I wanted to ask it. And then getting back to your public notification, how else is SDOT going to get the word out about the impacts of this construction activity, the 12 to 16 months construction activity that's going to be overlapping the Reconnect West Seattle? What else is going to be done besides 4 reader boards?
Oh, well, I mean, we have all, the press that we typically do and, other communications that, might be happening with the West Seattle Bridge. I mean, we can coordinate with everyone here to see if it's appropriate or if they, if they want us to be adding information. We do have that listserv that I mentioned with the 700 subscribers, and that's based on all the neighborhood outreach that we've been doing over the last 4 years. So we have a pretty robust list of people who are already interested. The message boards is extra. So I'm sorry if I emphasize that too much.
No, I understand it's, I understand it's extra and I appreciate that, but there's also, I'm guessing, of the 700 people, there's probably a whole lot more who are now going through the area who haven't a clue because they wouldn't have paid attention to anything going on in South Park before. So for the next, 9 months, you've got folks traveling through there who may be clueless, and it's how are you going to reach out to them?
Therese, I wonder if you can maybe describe the neighborhood that we're talking about and the streets that we're talking about. This is not, if you got lost, you would be on a gravel road and you'd be like, whoa, like it's a gravel road right now. So this is not like the heart of South Park. This is,
I realize that.
Near the river. And like Therese said, we've been doing public outreach on this for 4 years. This is not an emergency project. Go ahead,
I realize that. I realize that. And maybe it's just the fact that we're hearing about it and those people are doing shortcuts and stumble across it. Maybe that'll be a lesson to them that you don't take shortcuts on a detour route, because then you'll get into some interesting construction projects. I don't know. Just wanted to throw that out so that the communication coordination is all there.
Yeah, and if we want to go back a few slides, we can look at that map again, because as I did mention, this is not part of the detour route. So I think what you're saying is correct. People, if they end up on South Holden, they're not on the detour route. So that's not what they should be doing. As far as the construction schedule, we do not know when we're going to start on the arterial route, because right now we only have preliminary information from our contractor that we're, going to start on South Monroe and South Chicago. Those are going to be the first streets that they want to start on. So we don't have anything preventing them from starting construction before July of next year on the arterial route, but it might be that we don't start construction on the arterial route until, sometime next year. So, I'm in close coordination and communication with all the people here and our hub coordinator who is, coordinating construction, in this area and West Seattle and everywhere. So that will frankly be an ongoing conversation, and we will be working closely to coordinate when certain construction elements are happening to minimize impacts as much as we can.
Any other questions from anyone for Therese? I don't see any that are coming in there's nothing that's been in the chat for you, so just give it a second. Okay.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
Happy to
coming.
come back anytime.
Great.
Thanks, Teresa.
Okay, so next we get to hear more from Heather on bridge updates, all sorts of things related to the bridge. So Heather, why don't you go ahead?
I just want to thank Therese for doing some extra duty and coming and briefing everyone tonight. I want to alert you that for future, if you end up with Therese on as a project manager on a project in your neighborhood, you are exceptionally lucky. She's really good at her job. Next slide, please. Let's talk bridge. So staff has completed the intermediate design, as you know. Kramer NA is preparing the first estimate package based on that intermediate design. And we are also developing some early work packages that can be initiated before the completion of the final design. This is one of the reasons why GCCM, the General Contractor Construction Management contracting method, is so beneficial for us, because we don't have to wait till the design is completely done before we start doing some of that early work that we will have to do no matter what the end design looks like. Next slide, please. I don't know if this will be helpful to you, but I know it has been helpful for us. The GCCM contracting method is a more fluid process than your typical design bid build. So I just wanted to walk all of us through sort of what the next steps are going to look like. So you may recall that in July, we got the 60% design package. So that's like the pieces of paper that have the lines on them. We then gave those designs to Kramer, and Kramer is preparing a scope, schedule, and budget based on that 60% design. So that's called the first estimate package. We expect to have that shortly, and we'll report out on what we see there. The next step is going to be in September, when we will get the 90% design package. So that's the lines on the pieces of paper. We then hand that over to Kramer, and they're going to create their second estimate package that's built on that further level of design. The results of that second estimate package are what we use to go in to negotiations on the maximum allowable construction cost, or MAC. So that's the negotiation that SDOT and Kramer will have about, the maximum allowable construction cost. We'll complete those negotiations in November, and then construction will begin. Now, I want to note, as I said before, and I got to say it as many times as possible, work will be happening on the bridge before that. And in fact, work is happening on the bridge right now. It's hard to see because it's happening inside those big giant box girders. So we've replaced some initial shape array equipment with some more sensitive equipment. We have done an asbestos survey. So work is happening, whether or not you can see it. And you're gonna have to trust me on that one, because it's all happening inside the bridge. So I really do encourage everyone to sign up for those emails, because then every single week you can have a picture of what has been happening and what will be happening in the ensuing week. As I mentioned earlier, there are these early works packages that we're putting together. We're doing that right now. And then we will start doing those early works packages as soon as we get the federal funding obligated. There's a complicated thing about local matching funds that we have to respect. We will have those funding agreements with the federal government executed in September. So that's when those early work packages can start going out. So you can see it's not super linear, like it's kind of a fluid thing, and it flows, and it's working really well for us. We feel really happy with the cooperation and coordination we have between our designer, WSP, and our contractor, Kramer North America, with us as the asset owners and the folks that are responsible all day, every day for the bridge. And so if you have questions about that, why don't we save them until the end of this portion, and then we can, I can go back and discuss. Next slide, please. Some of you may or may not have attended the July 21st virtual public meeting. We had lots of people there, lots of viewers on YouTube, and we got about 175 questions and comments. We answered 28 questions there in the virtual public meeting, and all of those questions will be recorded and answered, and we'll put that up on our website. That will also appear as a note in the weekly email update that you can choose to be a part of. One of the things, let me go back one more. One of the things that was really cool about this meeting is something that I don't know if we've ever done it at SDOT, but if we have, it's not very often. We actually had simultaneous translation of the meeting into 4 languages. Angie, do you remember? 4 languages. And so this is in our effort to make sure that there's equitable access to the information, the transparent information that we're providing about the project. And we're pretty proud of that. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's interesting because we're gonna go much more sort of direct and curt on this one, because we all feel like we've answered this question before. So I'm going to try to do it again, and maybe this will be a success. So the West Seattle Bridge broke because of inadequate post-tensioning. Post-tensioning strands are steel cables, they're about this big around, that tighten the bridge and strengthen the concrete. So it's like they hold all the concrete together in tension. Although the bridge was designed to the standards of the time, insufficient post-tensioning at the time, insufficient post-tensioning was required. They didn't know it was insufficient. Now we know. Insufficient post-tensioning caused the weight of the bridge, also known as dead load, and the weight of the traffic, live load, to be redistributed in the bridge in two parts of the bridge that were not designed to carry the load. And so that's where you saw the cracking. Okay, so the bridge was designed right. It's just the standards of the day weren't adequate to the task. That happens, science changes, we learn more, we do better. Because of the insufficient post-tensioning, there was cracking in the center span and the 2 tail spans. So there are 3 spans of the bridge: tail span, center span, tail span. So the cracking occurred in all 3 of those spans. And the center span has been stabilized. That's the thing that we went in and last year and put all the extra post-tensioning and the carbon fiber reinforced polymer wrap. We did that to prevent the bridge from falling down, right? That wasn't any kind of restoration that was adequate to restore traffic to the bridge, because if it were, I can assure you we would have. What it did is preserve the integrity of the bridge so that the mayor and the community could make the decision whether to repair or replace the bridge. So you guys all remember sitting through the meetings talking about the cost benefit analysis, and we went through that to decide whether repairing or replacing was the right thing to do. Okay, next slide, please. Sam, did you want to add anything to that?
You did a great job there, Heather. The only thing I would add is, if folks remember last year, we talked about the continued crack growth after we closed the bridge. So the bridge without the live load on it continued to crack.
Right, because most of the weight of a bridge is not the live load, it's the dead load, right? Something like 80%. I think Matt's here, he can correct me if I'm wrong. So what went wrong? So we already know that the bridge broke because of inadequate post-tensioning. What went wrong? The original bridge design from the early 80s is the root of the problem. A 2020 expert analysis, all of you folks remember the technical advisory panel. We had Barbara Moffett come in and speak to the community task force. So the expert analysis, which was headed up by our engineer of record from WSP, as well as our chief bridge engineer, Matt Donahue, who is here today, and he's the guy that's responsible for this bridge and its safety. As well as the technical advisory panel, which was a group of, it was 8 or 10 engineers from all across the country who have expertise in structural engineering, geotechnical engineering, construction. We had engineers from all over the place. And this is one occasion where the pandemic forcing everything onto a video chat was actually beneficial for us, because we got access to consultants and engineers from all across the country who might not have been able to join us if we had all had to gather in person. So this expert analysis concluded that the concrete reinforcement, post-tensioning, was insufficient and started to cause the entire bridge to fail. Post-tensioning was inadequate. The post-tensioning system, which reinforces the concrete in each bridge span, was not strong enough to support the entire expected lifespan of the bridge. The post-tensioning cables, remember, these are big cables, and the ones that are already in the bridge are inside the concrete. The ones that we're adding are outside the concrete. That's why we call it external post-tensioning. The post-tensioning cables that are reinforcing the concrete weren't strong enough. This shifted the weight of the bridge to parts that weren't meant to carry the weight. You've heard me say before that bridges operate as an interlocking system, and every member, that's what they call parts of the bridge, every member has its role, and those roles are reduplicated, but not every single part of the bridge is built to carry the weight of the whole bridge. So the weight of the bridge parts were, the weight of the bridge was shifted because of this inadequate post-tensioning, was shifted to parts of the bridge that weren't meant to carry it. And this caused cracks to form in the center spans and the post-tensioning anchor points on the tail spans. So let me say right now, this is highly technical. So the question of what went wrong with the bridge and why did it break are highly technical questions. And so if you're feeling confused about this explanation, which by the way is just as lay as we could make it, it's because this is extremely complicated. It requires years of training, and it requires an actual license to practice this kind of engineering, which is why I just do it on TV. So next slide, please. Now, building on what was wrong with the bridge, we answer the question, why can't you open one lane of traffic in each direction now? Or any lanes of traffic in any direction? Safety is our #1 priority. It is our job to make sure that our infrastructure is reasonably safe for ordinary travel, like driving across a bridge. Allowing traffic on the bridge now would cause more cracking and further harm the condition of the bridge. So the condition that the bridge is in right now is what our engineers are using to design the end rehabilitation, right? So if we allowed cars on there and they cracked the bridge, which they certainly would, then we would have to start again with our design of the rehabilitation. The emergency stabilization that we did on the center span halted the cracks from growing larger and kept the bridge standing. But additional work is needed to further strengthen the bridge to support the weight and stress of daily traffic. Cracking occurred in both the center spans and the tail spans. So far, we've only added additional post-tensioning to strengthen the center span. We have not reinforced the tail spans. And when we eventually do the repair, you may recall this from, I think it was last meeting, we're actually going to have post-tensioning go from one end of the one tail span all the way through to the other tail span. So it's going to pull all of it together. So that is why we cannot allow traffic on the bridge. There are other things too. There are holes in the deck of the bridge that we don't want people to drive over, especially not at speed. At a certain point in November, we're going to hand the bridge over to Kramer North America as their job site. So it won't be SDOT's to give you access to. So there are other things like that, but mostly it's important to understand that it is not safe. And it is our job to make sure that the transportation infrastructure that you use every day is reasonably safe for ordinary travel. So the final phase of construction resumes this fall and will complete the work necessary to open the bridge to traffic. And we will do it at exactly that time. Next slide, please. Hey, we got $12 million from WashDOT via a competitive statewide federal grant program for local bridges. So good for us. That combined with some highway improvement plan funding, as well as the infra grant I told you about last month, means that we have secured 70% of the cost to construct the rehabilitation from federal sources. This is pretty good. It's pretty impressive. We're to the point where we almost can't take any more federal funding because we will not be left with enough to match. SDOT expects the federal grants to be executed by the end of September because that's when all that money disappears. Next slide, please. Okay. Hit me with a Deb
Time
Barker.
for questions.
None. No questions for me, Heather.
No hands raised. So a question in the chat, Heather, is can you confirm the repair project is on track for mid-2022 completion?
Yes, I can confirm that.
Okay.
Second quarter.
Mid-2022.
Second quarter.
They changed it. They dropped the second quarter.
Okay, boss.
Mayor Nichols, did you have a question?
Oh, I just wanted to emphasize second quarter looks like the sweet spot.
Okay. Anne, a question for you, from you.
Heather, I want to thank you for the clear explanation of what went wrong, because that's something that I think a lot of people have had questions about, and it's just nice to see it written down and explained in layperson's terms, and thank you for doing that. And then
You're very welcome.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm wondering about is you said we're at 70% for funding. So and remind me, and I should know this probably, but so the funding, the 70%, the total that you're talking about there, is that just for the rehabilitation of the bridge, or is that for ongoing maintenance along with it? Because I remember those different numbers.
Yeah. Yes, you sure would. So I want to say a couple of things. Thanks to the partnership of your city council, this project is fully funded. Any dollar that we get of federal money or other partner money means that those are bonds that we don't have to sell. And so the money that we would use to pay back those bonds can be used for other projects in the city of Seattle. Because as Sam likes to remind me, this is the Department of Transportation, not the Department of the West Seattle Bridge. Whoa. So the project is fully funded. There is a part of that whole $175 million project that's just for rehabilitation of the High Bridge. And that's something like $54 million. So we have funding. We have 70% of that 54 million comes from the federal government. So your federal taxes at work coming back to serve you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Great. You're very welcome. And we worked really hard on those slides, so I'm glad they worked.
I hope you put them on the website so everybody can see them.
Oh, we will.
And I also want to say I'm really excited about the weekly emails, because that's a great way for people who feel like they're not getting enough information to be able to sign up, and they're going to get it in their inbox. So yeah, that's
absolutely.
Really yeah.
Any other questions on your mind?
Liz?
Okay.
Liz? Liz Powell?
Yes.
Did
yes.
did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, you've answered the question before for me. I was just bringing it up because I think it's going to continue to be a topic. So it was more what I was hearing.
Sure. Sure. So I do want to note that I didn't write that by myself. All that information came from the licensed professional engineers that are responsible for this bridge. People who've been intimately involved in the bridge long before it broke. And so we will share that information on the website. And, you know, we're here to brief anybody. You guys come to the community task force meetings and we love that. But if there are other people that feel like they need a briefing, Sam and I we'll brief you anytime, anywhere. So let us know if there are others. Thank you.
You know, I just wanted to jump in on that too. And you know, we're in this window, as Heather said, when more substantial construction activity starts again on the bridge this fall, it's going to again be a construction site and it's going to be a little bit challenging. We've talked about this being an opportunity where, you know, we've never been able to take community task force members up on a tour of the bridge to sort of help you all understand and help communicate. We've talked about this being a window when we might be able to make some of that happen. So stay tuned a little bit. We don't have exactly the details of that, but you know, this and some of the other questions that we heard during that public meeting make us realize that, you know, a picture is 1,000 words, and seeing with your, you know, and being able to touch it is even more valuable. And so if that's something that the community task force members are interested in, you know, it takes a little bit of effort to go climb down the ladders into the bridge, but that is something that we think we can offer in a COVID safe environment too. And then I just say again, on that 70% federal money for the rehab of the bridge, you know, it is very unusual for rehabilitation projects of bridges of this kind to get that kind of federal resource, especially in the unplanned nature that this was. And so again, huge, those were competitive processes, the regional, state, and federal levels. And so it really shows how important this piece of infrastructure is to everybody at all levels. We couldn't have done that without the support of our federal delegation, Senators Cantwell and Murray, Representatives Jayapal, everybody that's involved at the state level, at the federal level, at the regional level, to make this possible on the timeline. And so what it means to say that it's fully funded is that there's no funding impediment to keep us moving right now. We've got the resources that we need. Right now, the city is still has sort of the promise to issue bonds if that is sort of what it comes to, but we're still seeking those partnership resources that help address this bridge, this regional piece of infrastructure, as well as making sure we have the resources to address all of our citywide infrastructure needs as well.
That's right. Thanks, Sam.
One note I would say, just as an add-on, Deb put a suggestion in the chat to put the slides on the website, but also include a video of your explanation. So the audio and the visual.
Yeah, Deb, you know, funny you should ask that, because just this morning we were talking about doing a video with me and Matt Donahue to give that explanation, you know, in a place where we can see the bridge and we can point to some of that stuff. So that should be coming shortly. I'm going on vacation for a little while, so you're gonna have to wait for it, but it's coming.
Dan Austin, you had a question.
Yeah, Dan Austin with West Seattle Chamber. First, I just want to congratulations on the amount of funding. I know New Bridge was a part of the New Bridge less risk because there might be more money available for it. So for you guys to pull down 70% federal on a rehabilitation, good work. So thank you for that, getting us some bridge back a couple of years earlier. Second, this might be slightly off of the specific thing here, but I should have brought it up earlier. The pedestrian bridge over the high bridge being shut. The immediate feedback I've got from some folks, I know it's trying to keep some shenanigans from jumping onto the high bridge and going goofy, but apparently it's also a pretty critical access point for people to try to get down to Avalon for transit. Was that taken into consideration, and what can be done about I know there's a construction project down the road, but
Yeah.
we're asking people to
It's-
take transit and we cut off a
Yeah.
route for them to get there.
It's not that far down the road, the construction project. So good question. We can definitely go out there and mark some detour signs for pedestrians and bicyclists, but I want to say that SPD crime prevention let us know that there are reports of all kinds of illegal activities happening there, especially on nights and weekends. We're having an ongoing issue with people trespassing on the closed West Seattle Bridge. That is a safety issue. And as you guys know, safety is our #1 priority. So to curb those illegal activities and trespassing, we closed the bridge with signs this week. So don't use the pedestrian bridge. We also have a pedestrian detour route that is mapped out on our website. I'm going to make sure we have some signs out there. We're sorry that we didn't give more advance notice, and we're working now to coordinate on some additional public communications and signage. We're looking at these issues and taking public feedback into consideration for the next few weeks before the project starts. But once that project starts, the bridge is going to be closed for real. It's going to be under, construction for seismic refit. As soon as September, we're going to start that seismic refit project and reinforce the bridge. In case of an earthquake, that will close the pedestrian bridge for 3 months. So now's a good time to figure out your detour, and we'll follow up with an email and work with the West Seattle blog to make sure people get an update on that project.
One suggestion that was given was maybe it could be open between 8 a.m. and like 7 p.m. for commute for the next couple of weeks. Just throwing out what was asked to be said.
Yeah.
It's
It's a safety
less
issue, Dan.
police resources to try to keep it closed and then close it
Yeah.
when the late night shenanigans are happening. But all right,
Yeah.
just throwing that out.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Okay. I love that in that exchange, we use the word shenanigan like 6 times. Okay, so let's go to, I don't see any other questions or hands raised, so let's go to the next section. Reconnect West Seattle with our friend Sarah Zora, and Stefan is going to join her to talk a bit. So I want to make sure that John Persek, we get to your question when we're talking about in the Georgetown topic area. So you waited patiently at the beginning, and I don't want to forget about you. So Sarah, why don't you go ahead and take it, and then we have time for questions at the end. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I'm Sarah Zor from SDOT. I just wanted to give you a few construction updates. We have the Duwamish Longhouse interim signal and crosswalk. As you know, it's along West Marginal Way. It's really a safety and access improvement project. We're going to anticipate starting that at the end of August. We will be doing weekend work only so that we can avoid that major critical detour route during the weekdays. We will always have at least one travel lane open in each direction so that we can ensure that the public can still get through when we're doing that construction. We have a lot of different coordination to do with a bunch of different public agencies. So we will have that in our Friday construction notice when exactly the weekend that we're going to start that. And we are still in the process of continuing the West Marginal Way and Highland Park Way intersection improvements. Reminder about this is that once this construction project is complete, there will be more concurrent turning movements, better efficiencies for the motorists, the driving public, for throughput through this intersection. We are on track to complete that by the end of September, and we are definitely just working on the weekend early morning hours. We have our crews out there at about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. until the latest 1 p.m. so we can try to remove what we're doing out there in the roadway for some portion of that weekend time. And we really know that this project is on a critical detour route. We're only doing this project because we know it will help once that construction is over to try to have better throughput and efficiencies for you all as we're in this the West Seattle High Bridge detour situation. If you go to the next slide, please. I'm going to jump around a little bit on you guys today. For low bridge access, you know, we've received over 1,500 either online or paper applications for authorized users. As you know, on a monthly basis, we have access coming up. So if you are looking to be an authorized user for September access, your applications are due on August 15th. That's a few days from now. So make sure you have a good understanding of what that date is. Make sure that when you do apply, you have to meet the criteria, you provide your license plate, and then before you use the low bridge as an authorized user, you have to look at your approval email from SDOT and what is that date that you got approved for. We don't want people mistakenly getting over on that low bridge prior to your license plate getting into the system to allow you that access and to be an authorized user. We'll have more updates next month about low bridge policy access policy and the strategies for moving forward when we come into next year and the Terminal 5 project should be open. If you go to the next slide. Again, we're wanting to just give people data and information about what we're seeing out there in terms of all of our data collections. So I've been coming back to you on a monthly basis to try to show you what it was like in 2020 for traffic and the travel times, as well as now time, July 2021. So as you can see, we are still experiencing greater travel times for your destinations where we do have all of our data analysis. The good news story about that is we have been seeing bus ridership pick up more this year as compared to last year, and especially water taxi. So you guys talked a lot about water taxi and the capacity. The capacity of the water taxi is 278 passengers, and they have had one high on a Saturday sailing for 188 passengers. So there is quite a lot of room if people are willing and able to take that choice and move towards downtown Seattle by using the water taxi. It is a really great option for people in West Seattle at this time. If you go to the next slide, please. We know that the high bridge will open in mid-2022, as Heather was saying earlier today. And we definitely recognize that the detour routes are challenging. You know, we've taken away 7 travel lanes from that high bridge due to the closure, and how we try to mitigate that is a community and SDOT process and partnership. We all really do need to work together to try to see what kind of other options you are able or willing to take at different times of your day if you're going to destinations across that Duwamish waterway. And if you go to the next slide, some of the things that we are doing, starting on the October 2nd service change for King County Metro, we will be adding 30,000 annual transit hours in West Seattle. We have a good partner within SDOT and Transmobility, Nico and Mark Danucci, who will be coming to the CTF next month to really describe what some of those additional frequencies you'll see on routes come that service change on October 2nd. We've been doing a lot of partnering with agencies and community to really make sure we're hearing about people, what would work for different travel options, and trying to promote the things that we do have available at this time. We will be launching an incentive program coming up here late August in partnership with King County Metro. And I have Stefan Winkler here, who is the project manager of that travel options kind of community-based program. And I am going to pass it to him. I think you are going to talk more about the program and what we're going to ask the community task force to also help us with. So Stefan, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. So as you know, we're entering a critical and dynamic window in which many are deciding how to commute back to on-site work and school locations. And as Sarah pointed out, if everyone returns to drive alone trips, well, we'll experience extreme traffic congestion, which will have devastating health effects on our neighbors in the Duwamish Valley, who are already facing high levels of air pollution and associated health risks. So along with an increase in transit service hours, and infrastructure projects, and partnerships with regional employers and agencies, we're launching an incentive program to encourage folks who are able to replace car trips with an option that works for their lifestyle. Things like transit, employing with a friend or colleague, biking, scooting, staying local, or if they have to be in a car, try to move at non-peak hours. And to assist, we've recently contracted with Alta Planning and Design. We're really excited about this partnership. Alta is an industry respected international consulting firm. Many of you are familiar with them. They have an impressive experience helping cities and regions decrease drive-alone trips. For instance, they've helped Oregon Department of Transportation replace over 2.4 million miles of drive-alone trips with more sustainable options. And here in the Seattle area, they've recently helped over 90,000 residents learn about King County Metro's COVID-related transit service changes, as well as help over 700 folks living in Tequila replace car trips with more sustainable options. So we're really excited to have Alta on board as a major partner in helping us with this effort. So some of the strategies that you will, or you may have already begun to see, will include talking with folks, virtual and on the street, about options that fit their lifestyle, as well as reaching out to folks on the websites that they frequent or the social media platforms that they're on. And many of those conversations will transition into personalized trip planning and bike and scooter training for those who are looking to identify something that they're comfortable with and become comfortable with it, and something that fits their lifestyle. We're also investing over $1.4 million to incentivize folks to ride transit and use bike and scooter share to connect, as well as start van pools with folks that they live or work near. Van pool and transit, as you know, by the way, provide low bridge access during peak hours. So that's a big win for that. Now, depending on the person's situation, these incentives may be provided in the form of a funded Orca card or through the Transit Go ticket app. To the right of the slide, you'll see a photo of the Transit Go ticket app, which is an app that allows you to buy bus, rail, water taxi tickets from your mobile device. In September, King County Metro is launching a rewards component of this platform. And think of Transit Go ticket rewards like your favorite airline miles account. The more you fly, or in this case, the more you ride with any of our partners, King County Metro, Sound Transit, Kitsap, Scooter Share, Bike Share companies, the more points you earn for future rides with any partner. In fact, for folks that live or work within West Seattle, SDOT is awarding extra points for a commitment to replace drive-alone trips across the river with any of our partners. We're really excited about this partnership, and we're really excited about what it can do for the folks of West Seattle, find more sustainable options, and encourage folks to do that. And as soon as we begin rolling that out, we'll be sharing information with you and providing you something that you can share with folks in your communities and get the word out and help us get some signups. Next slide, please. So earlier I mentioned that you may have seen us out there talking with folks about their options. Some of the more recent events were in Alki Beach. That was in August 1st. This last weekend, we were out at the Duwamish River Festival, and our team will actually be at the West Seattle Art Walk this evening. So they're getting ready right now. This weekend, you'll also see us at the Del Ridge Farmers Market, as well as the Alki Beach Pride. Both of those are happening on the 14th. And if you're looking for any more information around this, you can always go to bit.ly/travel options 206. That's the number 206, which links to the West Seattle and Duwamish Valley travel options. And over to the right, you'll see on the slide that there's some photos from that website that show people moving around West Seattle. Next slide, please. So finally, I'd like to introduce our spokesman, Sal, who has been feverishly out there helping us get the word out. If you can follow SDOT's blog, or if you've been following our blog or any of our social media channels, you've likely already seen her out in the community talking about how to get around without a car as well as encouraging folks to visit local businesses. And before, you know, I stop and allow time to see this, I'd like to give some special thanks to some agencies and organizations and businesses for their support and collaboration on this video. So I'd like to thank the Office of Economic Development, King County Metro, West Seattle Junction, thank you, Laura, Only in South Park, Seattle Fish Company, El Buen Sabor, Good Dog Daycare and Boarding, Pearls Tea and Cafe, and Bikeworks. So with no further ado, I'll leave you to see this screening of Flip Your Trip. It's the very first screening of this, and we'll be releasing this in conjunction with our fall campaign. You can cue the video if this is the place for that.
We're getting it ready.
Okay.
Lori, if you need an extra minute, you let us know, and we can do some questions while you're getting it ready.
Yeah, I need an extra minute. Sorry about that.
No problem. I know we have some questions. I know that Colleen had a question queued up. Oh, there you are. You have your hand up. Colleen's on it. So let's do Colleen, and then we can go back to John. So Colleen, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This is Colleen Desmond from the Highland Park neighborhood. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You never know when you haven't talked the whole meeting if anybody can hear you. So I have a question and a comment. So my question is, as I was listening to Sarah talk, and we were looking at one of the, I think it was slide 24. You don't have to go back to it, but it just occurred to me, do we have data as to, or information, even anecdotal, if there have been more traffic incidents or accidents on the detour routes? It just seems that I've seen quite a few, but I don't know if it's a lot more, a few more, about the same. So that's just a question. I don't know if you have the information now, but it would be nice to, I'm just interested. And then do you want me to wait for an answer? Do you want me to ask, mention my comment now?
Go ahead.
I can answer. We do not have a record or a database at this time of how many collisions or where they were, or how they have occurred, but that is a really good suggestion, Colleen, that I can have the team work on so we can really have a full story of what is happening out there. You know, we're trying to lower speeds, trying to really make the detour routes and people not getting off the detour routes a lot more predictable and safe. So that would be a really good measure that we could take a look at. So thank you for that suggestion.
Colleen, the collision data is available.
Yeah.
So we just have to have the team pull it. That's a good idea for next meeting. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't want to ask anybody to do more work, so I'm glad it's already available.
Yeah.
It's their job. It's okay.
Okay. Thanks. And also, you know, I think it's also a good reminder for people who are driving that, you know, when they're doing these, when people are cutting in at the last second or, you know, doing these illegal turns, that if they cause an accident, it's going to make everything even longer and worse. So I was just curious. And then the other one is a comment from, it's also for Sarah and her team. It's a comment that I personally have experienced in Highland Park, and that also I heard from some of our HPAC folks and community members, that we wanted to thank you for the new southbound left turn from 8th onto Roxbury, because that seems to be working really well, and it makes things a lot, I don't know, more fluid or something. So I've noticed it personally in the last week, and others have noticed it as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Yep. It was a community suggestion, you know, it was in the Reconnect West Seattle implementation plan. So we're just happy that we have been able to implement it at this time. So appreciate that feedback.
Lori, it looks like you're ready on the video. So let's do the video and then we can pick back up on additional questions. So Lori, are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
Hello, humans! It's Sal, your friendly and fully vaccinated Seattle Department.
Is that playing?
Yes. Yep. It's doing great.
Department of Transportation spokessalmon, reporting to you En route to West Seattle, my new home. My friend Jeb set me up on a bunch of speed dates because he says I'm, quote, married to my job, and, quote, can't have a conversation about anything other than the West Seattle Bridge closure and its effect on traffic and communities. Well, he is so wrong. Anyways, here I am, just a fish in a van pool, asking someone to love her. And if the sights and alternative modes of transportation you're about to see inspire you to flip your trip, stay local, and support neighborhood businesses, well, that's gravy, baby. But I'm off the clock and definitely not going to be working at all today. Cue the hashtag!
Sal, what a gorgeous specimen.
Wow, what a welcome. I guess this dating thing isn't going to be so bad after all. So, Jeb tells me you own some sort of pro-fish company?
Oh, we are very pro-fish. Would you like to come in?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, I don't know when the last time you looked at the S.dot blog, but this bridge closure... Jeb's gonna pay for this!
Sal.
Oh, how'd you know?
Me imagino. Traje tacos y empanadas.
Cool, cool. All right, enough chit-chat. Tell me, what's been your favorite mode of non-car transportation since the closure of the West Seattle Bridge changed life as we know it?
Ay, no sé. Hay tantas.
Sorry, I need a woman who knows what she likes. Adios, mija.
¿Qué acaba de suceder?
Wow, this construction is no joke. So I'm not gonna make one.
I appreciate that. I think your date's waiting inside.
I hope he's not a dog. Now that was a joke. Well, hello, pupper. Oh, strong silent type, huh? I bet you've never operated a single occupancy vehicle in your life. So, hey, where the hell you going? Hey, hey, you're talking to the queen of hard to catch, buddy. Hey.
Hey, I saw you pulling up on your bike.
Yeah, I'm pretty into biking.
Biking is my life. We should go for a ride.
Wow, biking sure is fantastic, but hang on a second. I also like taking the bus, taking the train, running, skipping backwards, swimming, van pooling, staying local when I can. Do any of these things appeal to you?
Sure. With the West Seattle Bridge closure, we all have to do our part to reduce congestion.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. I'm very into you. You're very into me. Bottom line, I'm worried you'll become a distraction from my job.
Okay.
I know, it stings like a jellyfish. Maybe in another life, Ashley. Maybe in another life. But in this one, I gotta run. So, in the end, I guess my best date was West Seattle itself. And I couldn't help but wonder, was it legally possible for a fish to marry a peninsula?
It's sea law. You can do whatever you want.
On 5.
I see a few silent applause. So we have a bit more time. I think if there are any last questions, John Persick, I don't know if you're still question. If folks have comments on the video, anything that we've talked about, we're in our wrap up here. So John, did you have a question still?
Just more of a remark. I wanted to say that I appreciated Sarah and the rest of the city team coming down to Georgetown a few weekends ago to the Hat and Boots Park to get community input for some of the future improvements in the neighborhood with regard to traffic, and it was very well attended. and just wanted to say I appreciated that and appreciated the, the direct outreach to Georgetown, because I know that sometimes when we talk about the Duwamish Valley, we talk about West Marginal, and we talk about South Park, and sometimes we got to make sure Georgetown gets elevated. So I just wanted to thank you all for that, and just let everybody know that we're still here, and happy to answer questions as well about any of the maritime stuff, although I'm not actively representing on those issues. Happy to have one-on-ones and so forth. So thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Comment in the chat on behalf of Councilmember Herbold, asked Newell to mention SDOT's new signs that note that a project is intended to make your West Seattle Bridge detour safer and more smooth. That it's a helpful explanation for people about the purpose of the Reconnect West Seattle projects to help address impacts of the closure. Any other comments, questions before we do a wrap up? Okay. Maybe we'll put the slides back up.
I see Deb with a question.
I think Deb has a question.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm
there
sorry.
you are. Okay, you were off my screen.
Oh, it's all right. Thank you, SDOT, for meeting with the 16th Avenue Southwest neighbors who have a pretty crazy speedway going through their hood. And I appreciate all that you've done for that. That said, Sarah we could use a status update on, since it's been a couple weeks, and like to know when next meetings are set, because students will be back in school soon and there's a lot of work to be done to help them. But thank you for meeting with them. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
and you do.
Yep, thanks for bringing that up. So we have collected data in the section of 16th Avenue Southwest that has been the primary concern for that group that we met with. So we have our team actually meeting tomorrow to discuss some potential solutions based on the data analysis that we see. And then we were going to talk about when we can schedule a time to meet with the community again, so we can talk about what we are doing moving forward and the steps. Because remember, we're going to take another step probably in October to do more pedestrian data collection. So there's kind of a tiered process going on. But yet we are meeting again tomorrow, and we'll have more back to the community pretty soon here to schedule a follow-up meeting. Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Great. Colleen.
Hi, sorry. Sarah, quick question. Do you have any other this is Colleen Desmond from Highland Park. Do you guys have any other plans to meet with other groups in particular? I don't know if this is SDOT's space either, but like we've seen a lot of traffic through White Center, and then, a lot of people are cutting through and going to White Center and looping around, and same with Burien. Is that on the radar as well?
So can I take this one? So we have reached out to a number of groups in White Center and as well as Burien, and we just haven't had any invitations. So obviously we are the Seattle Department of Transportation, yet we are here to serve all members of the traveling public. So if anybody if you know folks in either Burien or White Center that would like to hear from us, I'd be very happy to come and brief. We have a great partnership with King County Roads. So if there's work that we need to collaborate on, we can absolutely do that. We just haven't, I suspect that, people have a lot on their minds. And White Center and Burien both have more convenient egresses off of the peninsula than the West Seattle Bridge. So it could be that it's just not like it's a problem, but it's not like at the top of the list of problems. But like I said, we'll go anywhere.
Cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other suggestions from folks? Or questions? Okay, Mayor Nichols, to you for wrap up.
Thank you, Angie. The next meeting will be on September 15th at noon. That's a Wednesday, which is normal for us for our midday meeting. but it's a different date. It's a week later because of Rosh Hashanah, and not wanting to impede upon that commemoration. The meeting will cover more bridge replacement study concepts and some framework. We're going to talk about the transit investments that were briefly mentioned earlier. We're going to again hear about the low bridge access policy and some updates on that. We'll have some additional information, I think, on a couple of projects such as the Highland Park West Marginal Way intersection. The water taxi information should be available to us much in advance of that meeting. So we'll have some good things to talk about. We're scheduled at noon again on Wednesday, September 15th. Please, if you have an opportunity to complete the reflection form, gives us some opportunity to think about how we structure our conversation so that they're of most help to you and to SDOT. So thanks everybody for your time and attention. Try and stay cool and have a great evening. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.